morning, afternoon, evening, or night, depending on when you're listening to us. My name is Robin.
And I'm Harshita.
Oh,
Or Hershey.
Hershey.
Hershey. Like
Hershey,
chocolate.
Harshita. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know why you're listening to us, but in case you are, you're stuck with us now
Yay.
for the next. Actually, we don't even know how long we are doing this.
We have you
Um,
hostage.
we have held you hostage, yeah. And I think this is something that we are starting, and we have absolutely no clue what this is, what this is going to be, if this is the only recording that's ever going to exist and we will never speak of this again, or if this becomes a long series and we actually end up sort of creating new seasons and we become famous and then everyone wants to listen to us and then we are no longer holding people
The whole
hostage.
grandiose
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So it
Yep.
could go either way. You might either be witnessing the start of something that's going to be unprecedented and something that's going to absolutely blow up, or you might never listen to this and it could just be me and Hershey speaking to each other, thinking that this is something important, but actually it never leaves the drawing board. What do you think? Where are we going to head with this?
What is the drawing board? I mean, it's already left the drawing board. We're already starting this.
I mean, it technically still is in the drawing board till it's published, right?
Ah.
Because we will have to re-record if this doesn't go well. Isn't that what I mean?
so.
Drawing board just sounds cool. That's why I used it. I don't know what exactly technically drawing board means.
I don't know either. I just think a little literally sometimes.
Yes. Speaking of drawing board,
Uh-huh.
I mean, Hershey actually is a pretty amazing artist, according to me, but she'll never really agree to that because she suffers from what we call perfectionism.
Oh
Do you
my
want to give
God.
some insight into what happens to you when you start drawing?
Oh my God. Where do I begin? I'm looking at that drawing I made of citrus on your wall.
Citrus, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Just for some context, actually, Hershey is very kind. They tend to gift me from time to time these beautiful crayon drawings. Now, I'm fortunate to be able to see the published and the unpublished ones. But there are some of the citrus one is unpublished as of now. But some of these drawings, digital and crayon and different kinds, are published on their Instagram page. Do you want to state the name of of your Instagram page, or too early?
Too early, and honestly, I don't remember what it is called.
Excellent. We have a Zen person on podcast who does not even remember their IG handle. But anyway, coming back to what you feel about
perfectionism.
Yes.
Perfectionism. It
As in not perfectionism as a larger concept, but rather how it relates to
relates to
your drawing. Yeah.
Relates to my drawings. Okay. I mean, I think just at the moment I haven't experienced it. I haven't experienced it. Like, what do you say? I'm not running away from it either. Like how I used to before. Like it was a thing just a couple of maybe months back that I was trying to draw and I didn't because I was actively holding myself back a little bit. Because it's overwhelming.
Sorry, can you say from because again?
Because I don't know, I'm just saying things.
No, say that again because
Yeah.
I'll cut that part out.
No, it's okay. We're just like test run.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't remember really. Okay, so when I have to think about like specific experiences, I'm not able to pinpoint it at the moment. Let's say when it comes to perfectionism, because it feels more like a concept to me, or there's just fragments of different experiences that I've had with this, right? It feels almost like a character trait, like a personality, whatever trait of mine, that I am a perfectionist, sort of a thing. So when I think of that, it reminds me of just every aspect in life. Just when it comes to art, sure, it's the lines aren't clean enough. I'm doing too much scribbling, or I'm not using the right colors. It's just a lot of self-critical, which outweighs the positive thoughts that, okay, I did make this shape really well, or I used this perspective has been drawn really well, that sort of, the good thoughts, I guess, get overshadowed
Fair enough.
by the critical ones.
Hmm.
And it's a very internal sort of process. Perfectionism, obviously, we're talking about psyche, I suppose, and psychology. So it all, sure, it's tied to experiences that I've had, and like a lot of things I've seen how people act, like learned as well. But it's very internalized,
Yeah.
perfectionism. So yeah, how does it show up for you in your day to day?
I mean, I don't think I really have that perfectionistic bug as much as you do. But
Yeah.
then, just like you,
That's
when
admirable.
I don't know. Maybe you just hold yourself at a higher standard, I guess, which is also admirable in its own way. But I think it shows up in my creative pursuits as well. So, just like, just for context for our listeners, just like how Hershey draws, I tend to dabble around with the guitar and make some music. And yeah, I have learned to be more forgiving towards myself and to let go of certain imperfections if and when it comes, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna post it, I'm not gonna like bother about it too much. But yes, I have also had times where I have not been satisfied, and then I keep repeating and keep going back at it, and I keep doing that till I come to a point where it's not fun anymore. I mean, that has also happened. And for me, if it's not fun anymore, then that kills the the very thing that actually inspires me to create art. So I'm wondering, since art is something that you actually enjoy from time to time, does perfectionism come in the way of your enjoyment?
You know, so I have a little bit of a digression here. So the other day, a friend of mine and we were having this conversation about what is artist. So
What is artistic?
what is artist? Like, who is an artist, or what is an artist? And I told her that I don't feel like an artist at all, because I haven't engaged with any sort of art form,
Right.
or quote unquote art forms. I don't engage with them on a regular basis, and when I did, it still didn't feel like I'm an artist. And she was like, you know what, if you've done it in the past, or it's just like anyone can be an artist. And she told me that me especially, if I draw, and sure, I don't engage with it every day, that doesn't make me lesser of an artist than
Right.
maybe, like, someone else. And I put a pin on that thought, but I haven't really like delved too much into it. It's still it's in the drawing board of my mind, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. And when I think about it now, it's also this thing I have with definitions. It's like, okay, I don't fit the definition or stereotype or like the perfect image of this thing that this concept that I have in mind. Like, I'm not an artist because I'm not XYZ, or I'm not all these things that I think an artist is. And like, I'm not perfect that way. So hence, I'm not this. And it keeps me from, I don't know, I sort of miss out on a lot of things because of that. Do you know that makes sense? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not good enough. Oh, sorry, I brushed the mic. I'm not good enough, or I am not, or I am this, or sometimes it leads me to label myself kind of with an incomplete definition as well. Like, I have a thing in my mind, or a preconceived notion in my mind, and I'm like, okay, I am this then, because I've done XYZ, whereas that's not the thing that
yeah, I mean, labels tend to have a lot of power over us, and as I mean, we actually have not mentioned this yet, but both of us are therapists by profession. And in our training and in our practice, we know the power of labels and how people really sort of tend to define themselves by their labels, and how they hold so much power over us in terms of what we think we can do and what we think we cannot do. And one of the things we sort of strive towards doing is to relieve ourselves from labels if they actually limit us in any way. And yes, that struggle is real. I mean,
Mm.
even I sort of have always wondered, like, okay, do I count, can I count myself as a musician? And different
Mm.
people have different opinions on it. I've come by people who I really respect as musicians who say that I can barely even call myself a musician
Mhm.
because their threshold or the standard that they
Mhm.
have put
Mhm.
to be considered a musician is so much higher.
Mhm.
And also, that's a thing with any structured or with any discipline, right? I
Mm.
guess, especially with artistic sort of endeavors, that the more in depth you get into it, you sort of become aware of how deep this rabbit hole goes. As
Mhm.
Socrates would put it, like, the more you know how much you don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
was just
sounds
thinking
like,
of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and then the Dunning-Kruger effect of that, like,
Mm.
some people may not be aware of, so I'll quickly explain it. It basically
Mm.
means when that intelligent people are usually think of themselves as imposters because they
Mm.
feel that they actually don't know so much, so that's why
Mhm.
they're stupid. Whereas
Yeah.
people who are less intelligent, let's say, they think of
Quote
themselves as
unquote.
very, very smart because they're
Yeah.
too unintelligent. I'm trying to be very polite here.
Quote
Too
unquote unintelligent.
unintelligent
Yeah.
to even fathom how unintelligent they are. I mean, that's a very, like, sort
Yeah.
of brief explanation of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you can read up about it if you're interested. But my
Mm.
point being that that tends to happen, I guess, with artists as well. That
Mhm.
after there's like a certain threshold, which if you cross, then you just realize that you don't know so much. And then it becomes like an existential question of how much do I
Mhm.
need to know before I can even sort of,
Mhm.
like, before I can, um, uh,
Mhm.
before I, what's that word? Before
Before
I
you
can
can
call
yeah.
myself a musician or an artist. Like, do
Mm.
I even deserve that title? Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Just this
Hmm.
thought, right? Like, how much do I have to know
Hmm.
before I can consider myself something or someone,
Someone.
someone significant, I suppose,
Hmm.
or just significant enough
Hmm.
to be able to call myself that thing. Um, I what do you say? I have had, again, because I'm a therapist. I've had most of my interactions are with clients, right? I see like what, 8 clients a day. So
8 clients.
yeah,
Wow.
they're
Okay.
like
I
they're like
I
eight
was also
slots.
unaware of this fact. 8 clients a day is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
How do you, like? Okay,
It's
that's a different
not. It's a
conversation.
different
Yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Let's
Yeah,
continue. 8 clients a day. My
I have
God.
8 slots. So in the day. So usually it's like 7 to 6 maybe on average, but on some days they're 8 like max.
Yeah.
So
Therapists are overworked. 101. Continue.
burnout junction.
Burnout junction.
Yeah,
Fun. Hmm.
fun. Not at all.
Not at all. Continue. Continue.
So where were we? I forgot the.
Yay. We lost our train of thought.
Oh,
This is gonna
we're
happen
left in burnout junction.
left in burnout junction. This is gonna happen a lot in
Yes.
our interactions, and it's especially frustrating when that happens. So since we have reached the burnout junction, let's just talk about it. How do you? I mean,
Sure.
this happens to me a lot, where,
Yeah.
like, I try to finish a thought, but
Mm-hmm.
mid sentence I forget something, and that's so frustrating
I've
because it's
seen
like you
you.
had
Yeah.
it feels like you were almost there. You, like, the end of the tunnel was in sight,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly the road below you, like, it just, like, sort of crumbled under you and you fell down, and now you're never going to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Whoa.
Okay, yeah, that metaphor got a little too dramatic, I agree. But my point is, the frustration
The
is very
frustration.
real.
I get it.
It's
It's
very real.
you're
Like,
explaining it through a metaphor and analogy
yes.
of the yeah. Um. So, and how often does that happen? Do you?
Actually, that happens more often than I can count. It
Mm.
may happen in the duration of this recording as well. Let's see if
see.
it does or not. But I'm just saying it happens very often, and that's so off-putting. Like that, like makes me like put off the conversation. Like it's like, no, now I need this conversation to stop till I can retrieve what information I have lost, and then only I can continue. Because if I
Yeah.
don't do that, then that's extremely frustrating. My goodness, then I cannot sort of listen. So actually, there, one of my close friends actually gave me a very sort of insightful kind of advice. So I tend to have this fear that I'm going to lose my train of thought. But then at the same time, as therapists, in practice, like as a professional in practice, and even in personal contexts when I'm speaking to my friends, I realize that it's very important to also listen, like truly listen to what the other person is saying, and not just like sort of think of your response to what the other person is saying. But for me to be able to do that is actually a very scary thing, because I kind of feel like if I do not think about the response to what that other person is saying, then I will forget it by the time the person has finished saying that. And then that same frustration would come in, and then I would be very like put off from the conversation. So that really scares me, and that sometimes hinders my ability to truly, like, sort of listen and be there for the other person. And the close friend in question here, like, he told me that one thing you can do in such situation is to put a pin on it, in the sense, like, think of a word or two words or a phrase that represents the larger idea of what you were about to say, and just remember that word, and basically trust your ability to be able to deduce from that word that you what you were originally about to say. So basically the point here is that the word will remind you what you were about to say. So you only need to remember the word, you don't need to remember the full thing that you were saying. So you will be rest assured that you are not going to forget that word, which then puts that cognitive load off you, and then you can completely focus on listening to the other person. And I use that sometimes, and that has actually helped me quite a bit in my professional practice and my personal sort of conversations.
So, putting
You
a
lost your train of thought.
I did not have one.
Oh,
Very
okay.
surprising, but I didn't have a train of thought this whole thing. I was just following yours.
Wow.
Which
So yeah,
is
here you go. Professional in practice, actively listening, not thinking of a response while the other person's talking. We have a model
Yeah.
therapist right
Oh
here.
my god,
Yes,
no.
please book sessions, please. Let's catalyst. Let's be a catalyst to her trip to burnout junction, because 8 sessions are not enough.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, 8 sessions a day is not enough. You need to do more.
Thank, thank you for that shameless plug, I suppose.
Shameless what?
Plug.
Plug. Mm-hmm.
Plug. Advertising.
Mm-hmm.
The I was following your train of thoughts. I was thinking about, in the back of my head, there's always, I don't know if you've experienced this, I'm sure everyone has, like, it's not just the context that you're following, but also like a subtext is sort of forming in your mind, right? You're interpreting things as they're happening, and you're seeing like with me, so you were talking about junction or this, putting a pin on the thought. With me, I think very visual. So I was this is something that helps me focus on things, because my attention span is all over the place. So yeah, I try to imagine, like how you imagine the word, maybe one or two words. I try to imagine like an object. Let's say the person is saying, I had a session with a client, and he was talking about time blindness. Well, he didn't mention it, but he was describing the experience of time blindness. And he was saying that how he has so many thoughts, and I was imagining like just like a cloud of, very hazy and all of that. And that sort of helped me sort of stay focused, and kind of stay with him, because otherwise it is overwhelming for me as well. Not the fact that unlike you, where you're like, I am going to lose my thought. I have so many thoughts, it's like it's kind of overflows and it becomes like this whole thing, and I cannot contain it in my head, and I lose everything. So I have to hold on to something the other person is saying using like an imagery of sorts. And
Imagery. So you
imagery.
think pictures. You think in
Yeah,
pictures.
I think in pictures.
Wow. Okay.
I've always thought in pictures. And because of that, this is a conversation we were having the previous hour, I think, or at 8 o'clock, why poetry with very vivid imagery is something that I can really like, it helps me sort of express, or just, I get it. I like it.
Yeah.
It feels good to think about these things because it's, I don't know, it's something visual that you can sort of experience in your mind.
No wonder
And
you're so inclined towards visual art.
drawing, I
Yeah.
think so. Weirdly, visual art, it's it's less vivid like in my head than it's, well, when you're thinking about art, you're putting it on paper, you're thinking about all the techniques and all of that. It is more of like, it's lesser of a, I guess, that visual process than it seems. Sure, the end result is very visual, but the process is very like maths.
Maths.
Mathematics.
So
'Cause you're
what goes on in
So-
your mind while you're drawing?
While I'm drawing, I'm thinking about what colors would blend into what to make this color, what lines in what shape, or what like will, for this corner of the drawing, do I use a triangle or a circle or this, that,
So you're
or
still thinking in shapes, right? Like geometry shapes.
geometry shapes, but also I'm thinking like, more in like words, and sure, yes, I guess so, to an extent, yes. But I'm also thinking of a lot of principles, I think.
Right.
Like art
So it is
principles.
actually pretty abstract. Your thoughts
Yeah.
at that time is actually pretty abstract.
Yeah.
Whereas in conversations,
Conversations.
to sort of make sense of all the thoughts you have in your head,
Yes.
you really rely on very concrete
Yeah.
pictorial imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like
Understood.
how a child imagines things if you don't know what the thing is like. So oh, am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
audible. Don't worry.
Yeah, so yeah, art is not a very visual process for me mentally, and conversations are way more vivid, in that way, and it's way more colorful, I suppose, and just it's way more. Even sometimes people use certain words that, I'll give you an example that I was telling you earlier, that one of my clients, he said that he's on a bus, every day he commutes an hour or so to his office, and I'm just imagining him like sitting in the bus in the corner, because I've been there as well. I've been in the bus before, and I'm imagining, and he says that whenever he sees people who are older than him, who are also commuting to offices, perhaps their everyday thing, they see, and he was describing some people carrying tiffins, and he was like describing the expressions these people have on their faces. It's almost like there's no life, it's like a poker face, but as if like life has been drained out of them, and you can imagine that, right, on someone. You can see the wrinkles, you can imagine the wrinkles on someone's face, you can imagine like the graying hair, you can imagine someone's like sagging what do you say, shirt, I suppose, kind of ironed, kind of unironed, sort of. So these things, and he was saying that how seeing these people is like a morbid experience for him, because he almost sees himself becoming these people, although they might, it's just his interpretation of these people, and because of his life experiences, he thinks that, oh, am I going to be stuck, like, am I going to become them, and am I going to be stuck in my job, and all these thoughts kind of follow. And that was I don't know why it stuck to me, but it did, and I cannot like unpin that from my head now and think of, oh my god, like that must be a heavy sort of experience to go through that every single day or every other day whenever he's going to office, that he sees people and he imagines like the end of his life and the regret and maybe death, and he's thinking that, oh god, what am I doing? And somehow the thoughts haven't left yet. He's coming to therapy because he's talking about he thinks about this on a very regular basis. And so it's just, even though it's the content itself or the experience itself is sort of morbid, it's weirdly beautiful as well to me.
Right.
To think that such mundane things can have such profound effects on people, you know? So, yeah, this is just an example though. I don't even
Honestly,
remember where it
wow. I
started.
mean,
Sorry.
I don't know. I felt like I was in a trance for a moment. Not because of, yeah, no, because even as you were describing it, like
Yeah.
wrinkles on someone's shirt, like your
Yeah.
visual imagination went that in depth.
Yeah.
Like I just thought of a bus and a person sitting in the bus. My visual imagination ended right there. But you try to
Yeah.
account for down to every last wrinkle the person may be having, the expression, the
Yeah.
clothes they are wearing, is their clothes wrinkled?
Because there are certain words that carry that much weight within them, right? Like it's if someone's I, perhaps with this client I've had multiple sessions. So if he uses a word, let's say I don't know, heavy, I've seen it used in different contexts. I know how heavy the word heavy means for him. So, and if he uses in that context, I felt heavy looking at that man, I would imagine all the, I guess, evidences that reflect that, okay, this is like a heavy thing for him. So, and sure, I use a little bit of my own imagination as well. That, okay, he must have seen like an old man, or maybe I have seen an old man or an old woman at some point in my life. Of course, I have. Maybe every other day I do. And I think about this, that what are they going through? What is this person's kind of day to day? Will I, is it interesting, or will I be sort of bored talking to them? These kind of thoughts. Like you attach like in a story to a person, like a random stranger. It's kind of a fun thing to do, I suppose, at times as well, where you just, like, let's say you're in the bus, you're staring out the window and you make eye contact with a lot of people, and you just like multiple people, not you just like seeing different people. You see like a father and a kid like on a on the way to school or something, and you're like, oh my god, that is, like that's, they have a whole life that we don't know about, and you just make
Yeah.
something up in your head and you pass time with it, I guess.
They have a whole life, but no insurance. So I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but
That too.
yeah, I mean, this is gonna happen also very often. We
Break out
we are
the
our
memes.
brain, like we are typical Gen Z brains. We think in memes, we live and breathe memes.
Yes.
So it's almost like yeah, it'll just come out.
Yeah.
But my point is, yes, this is something that therapists tend to do in general. Why therapy is supposed to be a long-term process is because the first few sessions literally just go in trying to understand like empathy at its finest, which is trying to understand the client's world from their perspective down to the words they use. Like we might have a certain language that we use to relate to our world, but we need to understand how the client uses the word and what each word, like what is the weight that each of those words carry. And you will come to know about those like how they use that only after sufficient rapport has been built over
Yeah.
the first few sessions, and you have truly taken the time to hear the client out, which is why like we don't just like that's why we are so different from people who like gurus who just give advice, like who will just listen to a few things, immediately relate to their own experience and give advice. A counselor is supposed to truly understand the person's point of view to as much as is possible.
Yeah.
So
That-
yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting to me that like that sort of insight on how the word heavy, like we might use it in a different way, but
Yeah.
your client uses it in these contexts. So
Yeah.
that kind of reminded me of this thing that therapists have to do. So just felt like pointing that out.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Sorry, I completely derailed our conversation because
So
of the
did I.
insurance joke.
No.
Like, what's wrong with me? Okay, I mean, I feel like I am like the complete opposite in that sense. I think in words. I don't think in pictures as much, which is why the kind of poetry or books which rely a lot on world building. Like there was a castle here, and there was a long winding road, and these were the trees, this was the grass, the sky was like a scarlet hue or some, like, I get so put off by it. So I mean,
know.
so my name's Robin, and so that's why thousands of people have recommended the book Robinson Crusoe to me. Daniel Defoe, I think, is the author. I may be wrong.
I don't know.
Maybe I don't know, whatever. But I'm saying that's a very visual book. Now I think I should recommend that book to you
Really?
because you might enjoy it quite a bit. Because I mean, okay,
Robinson Crusoe.
is basic plot is this guy gets stuck in an island, and like he's using the limited resources to survive or whatever, trying to escape the island. So there was this this point where he's trying to make a raft. So from my point of view, I'm like, okay, he is trying to make a raft.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get ahead with the plot.
Do you want to hear my interpretation of it?
I will, yeah, I will let you. I'll get to that. But I'm saying the book, my God, I think like a whole chapter and like so many pages were
Yeah.
just dedicated to
No, that
giving me
sounds tedious.
the exact measurements of what went behind Robinson Crusoe's mind. Like the wood log has to be this centimeter, and this was lodged on top of this, and this. I put the book down. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I think
I
that
don't think I
you
can
would.
either. Honestly, I'm not sure. You gave me like an incomplete sort of, not incomplete, but you gave me one sentence that he was building a raft.
Yeah.
And that gave me a cue to like think about something.
Okay,
So-
let's hear it. An
Okay.
insight into Hershey's mind. What
So-
what was the word that was generated?
Yeah, well, first thing I thought, okay, it's sort of like a scattered thought, but it's just the image of a man, let's say, in like sort of ripped clothes, because he's stranded in an
Yes.
island, his thing broke. I'm already like imagining he's destitute, or he's in that headspace where he's just like surviving,
Yeah.
and but he's
His
like
clothes are
wearing
ripped. Is he ripped?
I didn't think about it, but maybe he is because he's a sailor. So let's just say he is.
Is he a sailor?
Is he a sailor?
I don't think
let's
so.
let's just say he is.
I mean, how come?
He's-
I mean, he's stranded in an island, so he must
But
be
he
starving,
came,
right?
He came on a boat.
Did he? I forgot the story. I'm so sorry.
I don't know either.
Okay,
I'm just
ripped Robinson Crusoe with ripped clothes for
with
now.
ripped clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm imagining like it's unrelated to the story, but someone with like striped pants, and it's like you see those cartoons, those sketches where like below the knee the pants are ripped, and it shows that okay, some time has passed, and this person has done some like physical labor, and because of that the clothes worn out. And I can imagine like his pants are like a little wet because of the sea, water as well, and it was wet with salt water and that must be uncomfortable, and like sand on his feet, and I can imagine yeah and
Oh my God.
and I'm imagining him kind of having all of this power to kind of survive and cut down some trees to, what do you say, with like an axe or something that he found. Maybe he's just gnawing on like a tree,
I
with
think
his
the
arms.
plot of the story was also that he built tools.
He built tools. So yeah, I'm imagining someone like that, like a person who is just so, I don't know how to describe it,
Extremely resourceful.
perhaps, or maybe extremely terrified. So just someone like that building a raft, and they're doing it because they have to, because survival. And the raft is just, in my mind, it's not much, it's like a flat sort of, like how rafts are, and just big enough to fit his body, I suppose, like one of those rafts on in Titanic. In Titanic, like Rose and Jack, they had to get on like a wooden plank thingy, but only Rose could get on it, so maybe that big. So yeah, and because of this, it's you have this thing that you think about one thing, it relates to 1,000 different things. So I was also thinking about this poem called Albatross Around My Neck, and it's about living with regret about shooting someone, or I don't remember exactly, but it's like there's a man, someone who looks like Robinson Crusoe. He has to always, oh yeah, it's he shot an albatross, and he always has to carry the weight of that dead albatross around his neck. So it's like a metaphor for regret and pain and that sort of thing. The regret of having taken life.
Why did he shoot the albatross in the first place?
That I don't remember. But it just like it. I don't know. In my brain, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Perhaps he was just like hunting for food or something. Let's just go with that. So, and again, this reminds me of like a lot of other people living with maybe regret, maybe of myself as well. So, just so many things that connect.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did we come from Robinson Crusoe trying to survive to the regrets that people have in their life? Wow, I love how your mind works, honestly.
It's very scattered. That's how. Just thoughts.
It's very scattered, and I think that scattered minds tend to get a lot of flack in like the typical day-to-day sort of dealings, where people prefer those who can get to the point as quickly as possible, who are capable of linear thinking, and they tend to get frustrated by people who flesh out their thoughts, who go on 10 different tangents before coming to the point. But I think in that sense, a podcast is such a good format because there's no as such concrete agenda here.
At least for now.
For now, I think I think given how scatterbrained we are,
it's gonna
probably even if we have an agenda, we are going to derail ourselves.
That's good.
So let's just accept that. Which is why, I mean, just like a behind the scenes, we were very clear that we don't have a time limit also for this, because we don't know if we put a time limit, then we are definitely not going to adhere to it, because there are so many tangential jumps we do. But to have a sort of platform where you can just expand on your thoughts without there being any rush as such. Like, there's nothing. How many things you can think of, how many instances can you think of in your day-to-day life where you truly have had the space to expand on your thoughts as much as you want to? Now, therapy is a space where therapists provide that to the client, which is why people say that therapy is so important. But I'm not saying that the therapy room is the only space which makes that possible. But it is kind of sad, I feel, that we don't give ourselves that opportunity, and others don't hold that space, or like people don't hold that space for each other. And obviously with the thought deletion devices, as I like to call mobile phones, and with the social media and all of those things, again, I'm speaking as if I'm like a third person. Thought deletion device is something that Kurt Cobain had predicted in the 90s, that there will eventually be like these handheld devices which would act like thought deletion devices. So truly a visionary ahead of his time and all those things. But I'm just saying that about thought deletion. Oh, there you go. Derailed. Completely derailed.
If I have to derail it a little bit more, right? You were saying, I mean, firstly, I liked how you said that we don't have enough spaces where we can expand on our thoughts, which is true. I have been feeling that, and second, there was this sort of image that I got in my head, which felt sort of relaxing to think about, in the sense that you said, oh, we digressed, we derailed our thoughts, something like that. And I thought of like how, our thoughts can be, or like conversations can be like branches of a tree, in the sense that it stems from one thing, but it branches out into so many beautiful branches, small ones perhaps. There's one, and maybe some branches are just so small. It just ends there. And like how you digress into this one little fact about Nirvana and, what do you say, thought deletion device. And it's like, it still adds to the beauty of the conversation.
There you
know what
go.
I
We
mean?
have our logo.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. Nice.
Yeah.
High five.
Yeah. Was our high five loud enough? Let's do it closer to the mic. Yes. Oh my God. Do you
It was
see?
very loud.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Anyway.
So that it's like these smaller tangents or branches, I suppose. It adds a lot of beauty. It adds like to the humanness, I think, of conversations. And there's this thought. It's like it's my lock screen wallpaper. It says that. So this is a quote from this movie. It's called Before Sunrise. Sorry, let me just
So
look at it.
so as meanwhile Harshita is trying to remove all the notifications from their phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yes. What? You were gonna say something.
No, I was saying that thought deletion devices in its truest form. To
Yes.
open one thing on the phone, you have to scramble through thousands of notifications, remove it from your field of vision to get one thing out of this.
I know, and yet it's so easy.
Yeah. It's what is easy.
Like just to open an app and like just forget, but you get distracted very easily.
Yes.
So
it's,
yeah, just to go back to the previous thought, which
Yeah, it's
I had
messed
a-
up by design.
It's messed up.
Oh yeah, your phone locked again. Oh,
It-
okay. Great.
So there is just beauty of conversations, right? There is this one quote that I really like from the movie. It says,
What's the
it's-
movie called?
It's called Before Sunrise.
Uh-huh.
And they're having this, it's they're not exactly a couple, they're strangers. They fall in love with 24 hours. That's sort of the concept of it. And the whole romance, and
There are a couple of strangers.
there's a couple of strangers and like all of the love that kind of they have for each other, it's mostly contained within conversations that they have. They're just
Oh, the
opening
whole
up.
movie is just the
Just conversations.
Oh wow.
And sure,
I
they're-
love that format.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a slow burn romance.
Mm.
They're just walking around Vienna, talking to each other, getting to know each other, and I love that. Because so this quote goes that Celine, the main leading lady, she says, "I believe if there's any kind of God, it wouldn't be in any of us, not you, not me, just this little space in between." So when she's saying that, she's referring to the space between like her and the other guy, because nothing dramatic happens in this movie. There's just two strangers talking. They met in the morning and they kind of left in the next morning. So she's telling him at some part of the movie that I love it. I really liked it. I really fell for you when you described this one instance from your childhood where you kind of you were playing in the backyard, right, with your sister, and you said you sprayed like the water from a hose like this and you saw the reflection of your grandma or something like that. Like just such unique detailed stories, right, from people's lives that just I don't know how to interpret this. It just makes you see the other person as like a human being, right?
Yeah.
Which is why, and these digressions, like I said, they add to the beauty of it because it brings out like a quirk in someone. It's like, oh, I had an afterthought, and this is something that I like, and it's I'm not following a script. I just like it because I have feelings and I like things, and it's just the humanness of me that I'm showing through this subtext or whatever, not subtext. What is it? Through this little glimpse. Yeah. And I don't know, these moments kind of, like you said, there aren't many spaces where you can expand like this.
On these moments.
And I do feel that sometimes. And
Right.
I really like this movie because, again, I find that space within myself. I mean, through these two strangers, through these actors and the story that they have.
Which is
Where,
why I feel
yeah.
art is so important in today's world.
Yeah.
Like we are getting disconnected from our humanness
Yeah.
through the thought deletion devices and all the other stressors. But art such as this
Such
reminds
an
us.
existential thought.
It reminds us though that
Yeah.
how beautiful our thoughts can be, and it reminds us that like you truly even in a world of more than 7.5 billion people, I think,
Almost 8.
yeah, nobody can see the world the way you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Only you can see the world the way you do.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and but yet we understand each other. It's
Yeah.
like there's beauty in that shared collective understanding of humanness, but also I don't think I would have ever been able to like think of something as beautiful, sorry, I don't mean as beautiful. I think all of us can think very beautifully. That's not what I meant.
Of course.
What I meant was I can't think of something as specific as seeing the reflection of your grandma.
So, yeah, on the
Yeah.
the spray water.
And I
then-
believe that if we really sit with our thoughts,
Yeah.
all of us have something that specific.
Mm-hmm.
If we really
Yeah.
get to the bottom of it, all of us have something that specific of
Yeah.
of a glimpse or of a of like something that really really like sort of took us by surprise,
Yeah.
and something that I think because we don't have such spaces, we just enjoyed that moment but then did not think of it after,
Mm-hmm.
and then like just it just left our minds as quickly as it came.
Probably. Yeah, and it's sure, as I suppose as psychologists, a lot of times, especially clinical psychologists, right? They are sort of trained to think in terms of diagnosis. And
Yeah.
this experience. This
This
experience.
is the third time.
Sorry. It's so close. Yeah. This thing. Yeah, clinical psychologists, perhaps. Just whatever discipline you are in, you are taught to think in, through that discipline, right? Let's say clinical psychologist is equal to diagnosis and, disorders, or this experience is equal to mother issues, something like that. And
What did you say? This experience is equal to mother issues, or this experience is equal to other issues?
mother issues.
Mother issues. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course,
it's
you said that.
Freudian.
Yeah. Very good. Like give the audience, the listeners, the impression that we are only interested in your mother and how you relate to your mother, and everyone is sexually attracted to their mother, and everyone has Oedipus complex. Yes,
Everyone
but
does.
very very good. Like thank you so much for pushing that stereotype that we are just interested in mommy issues. But anyway.
Really.
Hmm.
And it's happened more than once where I found myself sort of trying to follow that thought, that path, that okay, they've had this issue, they've had this experience, does that mean that they have whatever concerns? Sure, sometimes my hunches are right, but often at times I've never it's sort of been a conscious sort of practice to leave things open-ended and having to ask the client, so what did this mean to you, kind of a thing.
We call
Whereas-
this reflection of meaning. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
jargon therapists use. But
jargon
continue.
therapy. And it's sure, it's not just like a therapist thing. Whereas I just, as a person, I think I used to kind of label things again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, I suppose, label things and be like, oh, this happened, XYZ is equal to this. So this person is that way, or this thing is this, something like that. And then like my world was really like almost a two-dimensional sort of box, that everything fit in check boxes, everything had something, like it wasn't very open-ended. And I thought I had to like know things, I suppose, and kind of be able to talk more, as you had put it, than to like listen. But I don't know what exactly the turning point was. Maybe there were multiple. Whereas people were like, they told me, just listen. Like, it's fine. You can ask questions. You don't have to always, if someone's sharing things, for example, in your everyday life, you don't immediately have to like jump to help them or come to a conclusion or say that, hey, things will be fine. You can just ask them about that thing. Just give them the space to, give their own interpretation of that specific whatever it is that they're thinking, or you can even add your own. You can tell them that, hey, I felt like this at one point.
Yeah.
And that creates space, just
Space. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
like
creates
one
connection.
last sort of
Yes.
point to like sort of wrap up.
Yes.
And it's kind of beautiful that like this recording is as long as a typical therapy session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For both of us.
For
like,
both of us,
for
yeah.
therapy.
But one last thought is that I mean, at least even as someone who's a novice therapist, I sometimes get a little uncomfortable when the client's not talking that much, and I'm
Yeah,
also
same.
and then I try to fill in that silence with asking more questions and asking a barrage of questions. But then like one of the senior therapists who like sort of was sort of guiding me through this, she told me
I know
that
what you're
like
talking about.
yeah, she
Yeah.
told me that it's okay if the client does not want to talk that much, let the
Yeah.
client lead it. If the
Yeah.
client wants to sit in silence with you and share that silence with you,
Yeah.
that's therapeutic. Let that happen.
Yeah.
There's God in that silence, as you put it.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful conclusion to
Yeah.
the weird, scatterbrained worth of a discussion that we had. Thank you so much for giving us the space to actually,
yeah.
to those who made it to the end of the episode. We are calling it an episode now. Till now I was calling it a recording.
It's a conversation.
Conversation, yeah. Till now I was calling it a recording. Now it's episode, conversation. See, so many different words. But yes, thank you so much for tuning in. See you next
Bye-bye.
time. Bye bye.